Okay, so currently in our level we have just a simple circle and a box ground sprite. But to be honest, it doesn't look that good. It's pretty ugly actually. So we can do one of two things. We can either install a free asset pack or an asset pack, a sprite pack from the internet, or you can draw in your own asset pack. I'm just going to be using an asset pack I downloaded, but if you'd like, you can actually draw in your own asset pack, and that's a pretty good learning experience. All right, so this is the sprite pack I'm going to be downloading. It's made by Mout, and it actually looks pretty good. It comes with the normal ground tiles, and it comes with the player sprite and the player animations. So I'm just gonna click on download now, and I'm gonna go to no thanks, just take me to downloads. I will wait a bit, and these are all the sprites. So I'm just gonna download them all actually. Alright, so after waiting a bit, all of the assets are installed. I'm just gonna click on show in folder. I'm going to extract them all. I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call it sprites. Awesome, and import everything to this folder. Awesome, now I'm going to cut this folder here, my game folder. So this is my game folder, Moody 2D. I'm gonna go to assets and I'm gonna paste it here. Awesome, now I'm gonna close this and open Unity. Alright, so now after importing the sprite pack, I'm gonna go to Blue Wizard. This is the idle state. Alright, so to add in the player sprite to the scene, it's really easy actually. Just drag in and drop it to the hierarchy or to the scene. And it's right here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the sprite renderer to 3. I'm gonna delete this little player sprite and I'm gonna set this name to player. Now I'm gonna add a player controller script to this. And awesome, I set the speed to something like 250. Maybe set the scale for it to something like, I guess this is pretty okay. And now I'm gonna add in a rigid body 2D for physics and a box collider 2D for collision. I'm gonna set the box collider to something like this. Now to edit the box collider, you just click on this little icon right here. It's called Edit Collider. This button right here allows you to edit the collider. I edit it so that it leaves out some parts of the sprite. Now I'm gonna go to constraints and I'm gonna click on freeze rotation because we don't want the player to actually rotate while he's moving. So now if we play, alright, so if I try to move him, he moves perfectly. But the thing is, when we go in the left direction, he doesn't actually flip, and that doesn't look really good now, does it? So there's actually a pretty cool fix around this. And the player controller, I'm going to go back to the player controller, and what I want to do is when I want to move in the left direction, I want my scale to be minus my actual scale. So whatever my actual scale is, I want to just minus that on the x-axis because I want him to go in, I want him to be facing the left direction. And when I actually go in the right direction, I want it to be the normal scale. I want it just go back to the normal scale. So yeah, if we go back to the player controller, and we can achieve that really, really easily. So what we will do is we will create a bool variable and we'll call it is facing left. A bool variable is actually a variable that stores if the variable is actually true or false. So it's actually used a lot in if statements. So if we are facing left and we're going in the right direction, we want to flip the player's X position. So I'm just gonna show what I mean by that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set an if statement. So if X input is bigger than 0, so we are moving in the right direction because bigger than 0 is 1 and 1 on the X input is right. And so this little to and operator means and is facing left equals true. So 2 equals is for checking an if statement. Then we want to flip the player. Else, if X input is less than 0 and is facing left equals false, then we want to flip the player. So as we said, flipping the player is really easy. So automatically this is facing left is false. So we're automatically facing the right direction. And in the game, the player is automatically facing the right direction. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set is facing left equals minus equals exclamation mark is facing left. So what this basically means is that is facing left's current state, if it's true or false, we want to make it the opposite state. So if it's true, we want the is facing left. If it's true, we want it to be false. And if the is facing left is false, we want it to be true. And we want transform dot local scale, so we're playing with the scale right now, equals new vector. So the transform dot local takes in a vector2 method. So what we want to do is we want to put in minus transform dot local scale dot x. So the current transform dot local scale dot x, we would just want to minus it. You can actually just put in a times -1, or you can just type in minus instead. We're just gonna type in minus instead because it's the same exact thing. Transform dot local scale dot y. So on the y-axis, the transform the scale is still the same. And now we want to copy this and put it here. So it basically just does the same thing. If we go right, he goes right. If we go left, as you can see on the x-axis, it's being the minus amount. So it's the same minus amount. We can make our code look better. So right here, we have the same code, the same 2 lines of code, but just written 2 times. So when you code, you actually want to make it super readable and optimized. So what we can do is we can create a void function, and we call it flip. And what flip does is basically we take this 2 lines of code and we just put it here. And just delete this. And now we can just call in the flip method one time, flip method one time, and the flip method executes. So everything in the method executes. Everything here between this bracket and this bracket executes when you call in the flip method. And now if we play, if we go right, he's facing right. If we go left, he is facing in the left direction. Awesome. So now we have a pretty basic player controller script.